I don't think that was even fake Italian. I think that was just offensive.
Super fluent Italian. Forget about it.
Rolling.
All right.
What?
Whoa.
I'm still rolling.
Gabagool. Sorry.
Jeez, Johnny.
All right, start the show, Amy.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Nostalgia Effect, the podcast where we examine movies from our childhood through the lens of adulthood. As always, I am Amy, and we got Joe fidgeting with his mic.
Yeah, I am. What's wrong with somebody else? Somebody, but not me, set it up. That's
Sorry,
all fidgeting.
that was me. I thought you would fix it. I just set up a small temporary one. And then we got Johnny. Also, Johnny.
You said like you just wanted to say Joe, but you just remember
No.
his name is Johnny. Okay, hi.
And
forget about it.
Today is a Secret Shame episode that I am extremely excited about.
Shamed about.
Too excited, I think.
I feel much shame for you, Joe.
Yes, we are
Joseph.
both very ashamed for Joe.
Well, that's good. I don't feel shame, so somebody's got to.
But
You bastard.
But really quickly before we get into grilling Joe why he hasn't watched Goodfellas yet, we want to talk about some news that was released today about...
Was it released today?
I think
Today,
it was
this
released,
morning. I read
yeah.
about it this morning,
I read
taking
about
a
it
poop.
this morning. I heard rumors about it a couple weeks ago, but they officially announced this morning that Laura Dern and Sam Neill and, of course, the perfect Goldblum are coming back for the Jurassic World 3.
You see, I'm excited of the idea of those characters coming back. But, this new franchise is...
Sucks so much.
It's just kind of I
It's all dinosaur fights. Joe brought that point up to me earlier.
Yeah, that's all it is. That's all these movies are interested in. Even the the idea, the way the spoilers, the way the Fallen Kingdom one ended was dinosaurs among us, and this little short that they released, Battle at Big Rock. Have you watched it?
I haven't watched it.
I haven't watched it either.
Did you watch it?
I did watch it.
I heard a lot of people said it was a lot better than the new Lost World. Or the new Jurassic World.
Fallen Kingdom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, because it's shorter. It's 8 minutes. It took 8 minutes of my time. And it was free. But it's still just focused on, let's watch dinosaurs fight, which is fine. That's totally fine. But that's not...
want to see.
But that's not
Nobody
the
cares
priority.
About your science
I
stuff,
know, but that's not the priority of the Jurassic Park.
Isn't it?
It's not the priority of the Jurassic Park movies. It's more like people trying to exist in a wildlife situation with animals
they're trying to
that
play
have
God.
not
It's
existed
the
for
folly
65
of
million
man.
years. Yeah. But anyway, so that's what this is, and it's stupid because you end up having a mom and a dad fighting off an Allosaurus with a pointy stick and a fire extinguisher. And it's no, I don't believe it for a second. It's just...
I don't believe these. No. The
They
science
get
doesn't
eaten
check
in
out.
a second.
The science doesn't check out.
That's exactly what Joe sounds like, too. Great impression, Johnny.
I've been listening to the podcast. So.
Oh, well, that makes one.
Johnny, you're our listener.
I know.
But yeah, it's
Yeah, I don't know. I like all of those actors, and
but
like
are they
those
going to
characters?
Are they going to be in it for more than 30 seconds like Goldblum was in the second one?
Well, that's the thing.
And he was 90% of the trailer because everyone's oh, let's get everyone hype for Jeff Goldblum in this new movie.
Well, it was also just riding the wave of hype that had the first Jurassic World, which people, it made a shit ton of money. And I haven't revisited. I know you revisited and you hate it, Joe, but I haven't seen it since the theaters.
I haven't seen it since the theaters either.
But again, I like Chris Pratt and the idea of the four of them because it has Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
and Bryce
it's got
Dallas
Chris
Howard.
Pratt, yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of all those actors. I'm that seems cool and interesting.
I'm really excited for Laura Dern to be back, though.
I just hope she does something substantive.
I feel like her character out of those, it's kind of it's cool because Laura Dern's she's done. I feel like because she's done other stuff.
Yeah.
That and her original role.
Yeah.
But you're right, she doesn't really do anything.
I feel like she does more than Bryce Dallas Howard's character does.
Possibly. Yeah, but that's not saying much, right? Because she doesn't do much either.
No, the only thing that she really does is let her assistant get eaten by a velociraptor, or not a velociraptor, a pterodactyl.
Well, technically, the pterodactyl drops her into the
yeah.
mosasaur pool.
And then she sets off. She lets loose the T-Rex in the first one.
Which is, again, it's showing you that there's that bit where, like, the autistic kid's like, let them fight, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's a three-way dinosaur fight between the Tyrannosaur, the Indominus Rex, and the mosasaur. And the raptors. It's a four-way fight. It's like, animals don't do that. Predators don't do that. They cannot afford to be injured, so usually they strike out at the sick, the injured, or the young, and as soon as it looks like there's any chance of fighting back, they back off, you know?
Are you telling me
that you
this
can't drop
movie
your
about dinosaurs coming back to life is not scientifically...
A movie that otherwise takes great pains at trying to pretend it's good information about dinosaurs. Like, the thing is the original Jurassic Park was the very best information based on research from the 80s. And Jurassic World is based on the very worst research on dinosaurs from the 70s. Like, they have, it's just frustrating.
Joe's head is exploding right now. He's foaming at the mouth.
You could do so many cool
This
things
is why
with
we
Jurassic
need a
Park.
science show with
You could do
Joe the science guy.
It's just you
Joe
could
the
do
science
so
boy.
many cool things with Jurassic Park, and they refuse. They instead
The cool things are dinosaurs fighting, and that's what they're doing. That's what people want to see,
just
Joe.
call it Dino Fight. Like, it doesn't have to be Jurassic Park.
I don't know. Anyways,
Sullying its reputation.
Jurassic Park.
Joe's upset about it.
I will say, so the end of Battle at Big Rock, there's cut in between the credits. There's flashes of the dinosaurs living in the modern world, and there's like a little girl getting harassed by the compies, and the little the
little dinosaurs from Lost World.
Yeah.
This fucking guy.
And then like a white shark that like snatches a seal out of the breaches to snatch a seal out of the water, and then a mosasaur like after it and eats the shark, and like that's cool. So there's all these really cool things that are tiny little snippets, and it's like, why don't you do that? You know?
Because they got to set up the sequel.
I also want to bet everybody $1. Not everybody, like in the world, because I don't have many dollars.
Just us here.
Just you.
You
I'm
still not
betting.
$90.
I'm gonna bet you $1. Sam Neill gets eaten. Anyway, this franchise. I'm so tired. I'm actually getting a little of like the fatigue of, they keep making movies that are not great, and then they keep making them, like Terminator. I'm hoping this new one's good. But it's just like, you've already made a bunch that weren't good. Maybe stop.
Just stop it.
Make the pain stop.
They make money, so
Show me on the movie where the mean studio hurt you.
I mean, that's how I feel about most things in life. And franchises that I'm no longer interested in. I'm just like, I kind of forgot that there was a new Terminator movie, and I will probably forget as soon as that movie comes out.
You will remember, though, because spoiler alert, you guys, for you listener, we're going to be doing a Secret Shame on Terminator.
Oh, yeah, because
1 and 2.
Oh, because it's Amy's
Secret
Secret Shame.
That'll be my Secret Shame for before the end of the year.
Shame, we know your name.
But, speaking of actually good movies, we're here to talk about Goodfellas.
And shame.
Shame.
We're going to shame Joe.
Yeah,
shame.
Joe. What the fuck?
Yeah, so we talked about this in, what episode was that?
It's like at least 3 or 4 episodes
3 or 4 episodes ago, we talked about
The Irishman. Yeah.
We talked about the Irishman trailer, and Johnny and I went on like a huge rant about how much we love Scorsese.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I went on my own rant.
Yeah, that gave us the idea for us to make Joe watch Goodfellas finally.
Well, because you hadn't seen it, and you were spouting out your ideas about Scorsese as a filmmaker, which is all fine, but the fact that you haven't seen his universally regarded best works,
like literally, this is regarded as his magnum opus, his best film.
I mean, it is.
I to be fair, I was largely attacking Departed, which is another film that most people really love.
I mean, yeah, but
and he won an Academy Award for.
I mean,
but I think that was like a
consolation award.
Yeah. The same way Leo won for Revenant.
Yeah, I still think they gave it to him because he survived making that movie.
But we're not talking about Leonardo DiCaprio as much as I would love to.
Yeah,
we're talking about one of his
Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us why, Joe, you never watched this.
Okay, firstly...
As a lover of
yes.
film and filmmaking.
Yes, as a lover of film and filmmaking, that does not mean that I am immune to simply not really loving mobster films.
Mm-hmm.
I just...
Oh, yeah, you don't like gangster films.
I don't love gangster films.
Yeah, that's right. You've only seen the first Godfather movie, right?
I've seen the first Godfather. There's
and
sections
he
of it.
didn't care for it.
I did not care for it enough to not see the second one. I didn't mind the third one, though. Third one's pretty
Shut
good.
up.
You make the joke every single time.
You know what? It still makes Johnny angry, though. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
His head's exploding right now.
Upset.
No, it's like there's sections of the original Godfather that I enjoy. There's that whole bit in the hospital where they're moving the beds and everything.
Yeah.
Like that's a cool tense scene. But ultimately, I don't care about movies with bad guys doing bad things. I never have. And in the case of like mobster movies, a lot of times we're focusing on them as people with their families, and they're this kind of guy, you know.
Hey, forget about it.
Yeah, and a lot of that, and it's like, and there's actually oftentimes fairly little emphasis placed on like the crime, which is, I think, more interesting than just Italian families.
Racist? Wow. Hot take.
But you know what I mean? Like I had the same problem with The Sopranos. You know, it's like I wanted to see, like, I don't care about them as a family. If I'm gonna watch a crime show, I want to see some crime.
I mean, I guess I don't know, all the mobster stuff that I've seen, which I like that genre of films and stuff.
But it's not like my favorite, but I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's always it's always about the crimes. There's always at least, you know. I mean, it's both. It's right. It's the family aspect of it, and then the crime aspect. I find them equal measures. That they pop up in equal measures.
Yeah.
But I can see why you know, maybe someone doesn't see it that way.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just tune it out because you're bored of the family stuff.
Right. I think that's true, and I think there's also like conventions of the genre that just don't speak to me. The same way that I often don't care about war films. You know, a lot of times those movies are just like, it begins and then things happen and then it ends.
I mean,
Which is
all
also
films
why-
do that, but yeah.
Well, yeah,
Why
but
Joe
I mean,
hasn't
there's
seen Apocalypse Now either.
that's true. I've not seen it yet, but that's because I have read Heart of Darkness. So like,
So he's
I'm
better
not
than
gonna
us,
rush
all right?
out.
Of course.
Well, I didn't like it. I hated it. I don't understand.
Well, it's also written in 1936 or something.
By somebody whose English was a second language. But that's not the thing. I like old books. I've read a lot of old books.
We know.
It's just boring and poorly written.
Yes, but we're not talking about
I know, but anyway. But the thing is like I don't really care for war films because there's not a traditional story. It is just a string of events.
Yeah, I mean, there's genres that some people resonate with, some people don't.
Yeah.
You know,
But that's what I'm talking about, like the conventions of the genre. There are things that I feel like most mobster films have. Granted, I can only speak to the ones I've seen.
Yes. Which ones have you seen? Like the famous mobster movies, like you've
seen Godfather.
Godfather.
Untouchables.
I love Untouchables. Untouchables is great. But that's because it's not a mobster film.
50-50 right now.
No. It's not a mobster film. It's a law enforcement film. We're following treasury agents trying to take down the mafia. That I'm fine with because I get to root for the treasury agents.
He gets to root for the government.
Yeah.
Which is the one thing that Joe loves to do.
G-men lives matter.
Yeah.
And you obviously haven't seen Casino or Mean Streets.
Correct.
No,
Or Godfather 2.
Right. I mean, I'm counting Sopranos as not a mobster movie, but as
in the mobster genre.
Notable entry in the mobster genre.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen The Sopranos, so.
I haven't either.
I mean, I gave it like 5 episodes, and I worked on subtitles for it at one point, so I've seen some of it, and it's just not for me. And there's like stuff that's like, oh, I want to see this happen. This is like, and it starts to do that, and then it's like, nope. It's like,
what about that Ryan Gosling movie?
Ryan Gosling.
There's
Gangster Squad?
Yes.
See, once again,
that's
bad about law enforcement going after the mob.
I don't like that movie.
It's a fun movie. It's basically The Untouchables just updated and not quite as good, but it's still enjoyable. And everybody in it's really great.
A lot of people say Heat is kind of...
Heat, yeah. It's not really mafia, but it is a crime mobster movie that does focus on their families. I don't care for Heat. Mm-hmm.
I actually really enjoyed Heat, but I like the dynamic of Pacino and De Niro together.
Well, see, what's funny for me is, like, once again, there's, like, all this focus on them as, like, people with their families, and I don't really care about their families, but on top of that, the police officers aren't terribly likable either.
Yeah.
And so I found there was nobody for me to root for.
A lot of people, and because I say that mostly because it's in this book that I have here. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Not really. It's a Martin Scorsese book called Gangster Priest, and it talks about all of his gangster movies. And Raging Bull is in here as a gangster movie.
It does have a picture of young. I want to point this out because Amy showed me this book today. Yes. It has a picture of young Marty on the cover.
This is Marty,
and he looks
like Jason Schwartzman
and David Krumholtz, like crazy. I mean, like not even like a brother. You know, like this is crazy how much he looks like that, like David Krumholtz. It's just nuts. And then a little bit like Schwartzman, but really Krumholtz.
Yeah, it's the nose
and maybe the hair and just sort of face shape. I don't know. It's
that's
the whole face,
that's the
really.
hair he has in Santa Claus. No,
it's kind of
but
curly.
It's not as curly.
It's curly, yeah. But you were saying Raging Bull, which I've also not seen.
Bull, yeah. It's not like a pure gangster film. And I haven't seen it in, I want to say, almost 8 years. Mm-hmm. It does have some gangster movie elements to it, and it is cited in this. Like, there's an entire chapter in this book dedicated to Raging Bull.
Yeah, but that's just like a study on Scorsese as like a
No, it's a study
right?
on all of his gangster films. So they do Italian or any of his Italian American films.
Yeah, well, that makes.
Does this book like try to rationalize does it say like I know it's not a mobster film but this is why it's in here, like is that what it's, or is it saying, or is Raging Bull really very much so like no this is a mobster movie pretty clearly, pretty straight up? And then it's...
I don't know, it has been again 8 years since I've read any of this book. I've been starting to reread the Goodfellas chapter for this episode. But from what I remember, it really just breaks down the entire chapter on each film is breaking down scene by scene and talking about the different like symbolisms and things within the film. I can pull up Raging Bull really quick.
I mean, I was just curious if like the book is like, you know, I know it's not immediately a movie you think about as a mobster film, but hear me out.
Yeah, and it could be the fact that I haven't watched it in so long that I forget everything that it's really like.
Because it's more famously a boxing film. Like when people talk about boxing films, they're like Rocky, Raging Bull, The Fighter, Cinderella Man. But yeah, so
you don't like protagonists that aren't good.
The anti-hero.
You have a hard time rooting for, or at least from my understanding, is you don't like movies where you don't have where there isn't a character you can root for.
Right, I like it. That was actually a problem that I had for quite a long time with Quentin Tarantino films.
Interesting.
Like Reservoir Dogs, you know?
Yeah.
And that's actually why really the first of his films that I really genuinely liked was Django. Because you root for Django, of course, and you root for Christoph Waltz as well. And because there are people in that movie that are unequivocally good and unequivocally evil. Yeah,
but I mean, so that's maybe I just like characters with a little bit more nuance, Joe.
Yeah,
right?
Come on,
the line
Joe.
between good and evil isn't as clear. All right,
it's not everything is black and white.
That's not true. The whole world is black and white, and we're either on one side or you're on the other.
I don't know.
I don't know, Joe. I don't know.
So, what have you heard, or what's your experience with Goodfellas, not having seen it all these years?
And besides the fact that Sarah keeps telling you need to watch it.
Well, she's more just like, Marty, because Sarah went to NYU, and so Sarah and Marty are like this, you know. And I even said like, guess what, Sarah, we're gonna watch your boyfriend's movie, and she's like, no, he's more like an uncle. He's like my Uncle Mo. He's just crazy. But just in general, like she just like any Scorsese film, she's like, you should watch.
Yeah, and she's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. But when I told her, we're watching this, she was like, oh, good.
Okay. But I mean, obviously
right.
you had experience with it in the past. Like, you had known about it.
So this is, I don't know how fair this is.
Okay.
But the thing that I know most about Goodfellas is it's the movie that is confused with Casino a lot. I think it's because it's got a largely similar cast.
Yeah. I mean, it's got Pesci and De Niro.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of people...
No, there's a lot of the like background mafia characters in this that are the same guys.
Right.
And they're also in a lot of Sopranos episodes.
Right. Yeah. So there's that. I am aware of the quite famous tracking shot walking through the club.
So that also reminds me, are there any scenes in this that you studied while in school?
Yeah. That was one of them when they were like, class, this is a tracking shot. And then they show that. Yeah. And they show like the one from Touch of Evil and some other things. So there's that. So I was I think, is it Casino where Joe Pesci kills the guy with a pen?
Yes.
Because I feel like I've seen clips of Joe Pesci in 2 different movies going like ape shit on somebody, and it starts out funny and then you're like, oh shit. Yeah. And so that's like my confusion is like there's bits that I am not sure are from which film. Also I know that there's a scene in Goodfellas where there's the classic push pull, like in a restaurant or diner or something like that, and everybody's like, this is the push pull that Scorsese does and other people use sometimes, where you dolly in and zoom out, and so it creates this weird sort of shift in depth perception, and sort of everything sort of elongates. So that's, I know, in this movie, and sort of a famous example of that technique. What else do I know? It is
Casino.
That's Casino. And then what else do I know? I know this has got Ray Liotta.
Yes.
I think that's it.
And the only reason why you just haven't watched is because mob films in particular don't interest you.
Yeah,
gangster films are just not a genre.
Which is probably why he hasn't watched the majority of Scorsese's early work, is because the majority of Scorsese's early work was based around his childhood and gangster film, like gangster, like living in that society.
Yeah. And not even, I don't even want to say anti-heroes, but like full on like psychopaths. I mean, Taxi Driver is that. Yeah.
Which Taxi Driver is my favorite Scorsese film. Like, hands down. I love Taxi Driver so much.
So yeah, I think that's...
So that's, yeah, so you just basically have an aversion to gangster films.
Yeah.
And they're not really like them.
And then, and the thing is that then in the case of the Scorsese films that I have seen, everybody has pointed out that they're not the good ones. I think...
Well, they're not the ones people, when you think of Martin Scorsese as like this auteur, director, they're not the ones that come to mind.
But when you've seen
I like The Departed. So,
when you've seen like a handful of movies by one director, you're like, nope, these don't work for me. Then you're like, you know what? I think we're going to avoid the rest of their work.
But I mean, you can't avoid their best. Like, that's the one thing where I'm just like, that's where I'm like, I get that reasoning,
right?
But you cannot like be like, well, I don't think this filmmaker's for me if you don't watch what's like critically and universally hailed as their best work,
and some of the best films of all time.
I mean, yeah.
Well, but that's the thing, right? Is that there are people who are saying, yes, I like Martin Scorsese, I like these films, and the ones that I have seen. Yeah. So it's like, oh, well, if you like Scorsese and you like these, then this must be how all of his films are, in which case I'm not interested.
See, to be quite honest, I've liked every single Scorsese film that I have seen, except for Age of Innocence. I'm not too partial to Hugo, but...
Oh, I've seen Hugo, too. Yeah.
But I can take it. I will take it over Age of Innocence any day. I really do not like Age of Innocence. I think it is one of Daniel Day-Lewis's worst performances, even though he is still really great in that role.
Have you seen the other ones that I've seen? Bringing Out the Dead.
I've not seen Bringing Out the Dead, but I want to see it because of Nick Cage.
Shutter Island.
I have seen Shutter Island. I really enjoyed Shutter Island.
Aviator.
Yes, of course. It's Leonardo DiCaprio.
You've seen Departed.
And Wolf of Wall Street. I love Wolf of Wall Street.
I haven't seen that one.
I like Wolf of Wall Street.
It's fantastic. I will bring it in for you tomorrow.
I think
not watching it.
I think it's okay. It's really long. It's a little too long.
It's long, yeah.
It's a little too long.
I think Sarah might own it because she was even trying to. Because speaking of sort of a confluence of both Jurassic World and Martin Scorsese, the bit in Fallen Kingdom where Chris Pratt is like knocked out and he wakes up and there's like a lava like rolling towards him.
Nobody saw Fallen Kingdom.
And he like tries to get up.
Yes, that is basically in quotes with the like little tilde, like this is kind of like a homage to a scene in Wolf of Wall Street.
And so Sarah was like laughing during that scene and she's like, oh, it's like that bit in Wolf of Wall Street. And I was like,
yeah, it's a good bit.
And then she showed me that bit and I was like, Yeah.
I hate it.
Well, because then I mean, so not only is he sort of like a despicable like businessman, right? But on top of that, like all the drug use. Eventually, I get tired of watching that too.
You just don't know how to party, man.
I like cocaine out of a hooker's butt.
You
as much
do
as the
not.
next guy.
You lying sack of shit.
But yeah, so that's
that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, I understand your reasoning, but still, the fact that you're just like,
Yeah.
And like, you know, because like Amy said, not only is it his best work, but it's hailed as one of the best movies of
I think in like
the 20th century.
2005 they rated, it's like some list rated this like number one of the 20th century or something.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's, you know, it's on a lot of lists.
Yeah.
You know.
And a friend of ours at work here, Elliot, I was talking to him about it because he's just as upset as apparently everybody else.
Everybody, literally everybody we've talked to, when we tell you, when we mention this, they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, Blum has said to me multiple times, Joe needs to watch Goodfellas and Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. We work at a, like, you know, at a film place.
He says Blum doubts your taste in movies.
I doubt Blum.
And it
just
becomes,
in general.
it's just suspicious is all I'm saying.
But the thing is, like Elliot said, because I was telling him about my problems, and he said that's like judging Spielberg on War of the Worlds and Minority Report and like all of his later films.
Yeah, it's true.
And I was like, okay, that's the first good argument that I've heard. Because quite honestly, I like Spielberg. His career breaks neatly in half. Yeah. The movies that I like and the movies I don't.
Yeah, exactly. Scorsese should be the same way.
Okay, so do we want to watch this
movie?
The longest one that we've ever watched for this podcast?
Yeah, 2.5 hours.
Oh, maybe, perhaps.
I think
2 hours
it is.
and 26 minutes.
I'm done shaming you.
Wait until you watch the Richard Donner Superman. That's going to be even longer.
Or we talk about The Irishman. It's 3 hours and 30 minutes, exactly.
It's a movie or TV series?
Movie. It's a Netflix movie.
Why is it that long?
And it's coming into theaters.
Who thinks that their movie should be that long?
Martin Scorsese.
Man, fuck that guy.
What the Russo brothers?
Yeah, but that was reasonable. There was a lot for that movie to cover.
I mean, there was, but you're saying who thinks that their movie should be that long?
No, but their movie was still like, what, 240?
And it's great.
It was not 3-something?
Okay, come on.
Yeah, it was. It was like 302.
Let's watch this movie.
It was like 249.
No, it wasn't.
I didn't mean to bring this up. You guys, let's watch this movie. I want Joe's thoughts.
Okay, yeah. Shame.
And now, our feature presentation.
Okay, Joe.
All right, Joe.
I know that look on your face.
Give it to me
Joe.
straight.
I know that look on your face.
Let's see it. What complaints do you have today?
What's your... Come on, just pull out your long
Whoa.
of complaints.
Jesus, Amy. Keep it in the pants.
Okay. I 100% stand behind my earlier statements about the films that I'd already seen. This film I quite liked. See what I did there? You see how? See that?
Switcheroo, you old devil.
You did this to us with Labyrinth too. I'm pretty sure.
I think I did. Yes. You guys haven't learned.
Yes.
No. So I quite liked it. Now I will say that it was not. I wouldn't say that it was like life changing. It's not a movie that I saw and was like, this is going to be a touchstone for all future discussions about movies or future ideas I have or things that I do in my own work. It wasn't that for me. But I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that the reason it's such a touchstone for Johnny and I is because it was like our first introduction to this world of filmmaking.
Like auteur
filmmaking. And yeah, auteur theory, like myself, like it's basically what I based my entire career off of.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, because I watched it as a teenager, and I think Amy did too. Or no, you did.
I was
college.
like 20.
Right.
I was like just barely.
Yeah, I was like my freshman year of high school, which is, you know, at that point in time, you like, you know, especially when you're coming off of movies that are just dumb entertainment, and then you come into it as a form of like art or whatever.
Right. Well, I think we all remember the movies where you're watching and you're like, this is a movie that I remember enjoying, but also understanding that it was very, very good.
Yeah, exactly. Like it touched something in your brain where this is like, oh, this is not just entertainment.
Yeah,
also
especially for me, like coming off of like only watching Disney movies for the majority of my life.
This is definitely not a Disney movie.
Having something like
Wait,
this.
Who released this movie? Warner Brothers. Nope, still not a Disney movie.
Like having a movie like this, so I'm just like, oh, so this is what movies are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Or can
be, not
Can be.
supposed to be, because movies can be a lot of things.
Yeah.
I like a lot of dumb movies. I know they're bad, but I still like them.
Yeah.
I feel like, movies
But
don't
it's
have
like-
to be one specific thing.
Yeah, like this is what I'm going to school for. This
Yeah,
is
well, I mean,
like-
it's just something where you're just like, I want to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Well,
you
I mean,
said.
like, I was already going to school for film
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, so this is why I love this stuff so much. Yeah.
So, Joe,
Yes.
does this movie? I mean, it has a lot of stuff that you don't like.
Correct.
And did that
It's got drug
change?
use. It's got consumption of
characters.
alcohol.
It's
and
got the
bad
family
guys.
business, family stuff, but it does also focus on the crimes, and the crimes are horrific.
Yeah.
I actually have an excerpt from Gangster Priest here that I would like to read out
All right.
concerning the crimes.
This is the first evidence I've ever had that Amy can read.
Got him.
I'm going to be sitting here for 20 minutes trying to read this
She
sentence.
sounds it out. Okay, go for it.
So, it enables one to participate vicariously in the intoxication of the gangster life. The music often comments ironically on the action. Oh, wait. I think I flipped to the wrong page. I knew exactly where I was supposed to start.
It's like, wait, I know, I got the card mixed up.
Okay.
I wanted to believe that the book had written, oh, wait.
That's exactly what the author puts here.
Yeah.
By the way, they are not American because they use you.
O-U-R, like
Yeah.
for favorite color. Yeah.
So, okay. There is less excitement in the heists themselves than in their planning as the gangsters grow drunk in their greed. Emphasis falls not on the Lufthansa. I can never say that word correctly. The heist that they do at the end, like the climactic heist.
Luftwaffe, right? Or no.
Lufthansa.
No,
Lufthansa.
Lufthansa. Yeah.
Heist, but on its aftermath, a series of corpses. Nor does Scorsese opt for the conventionally moralistic ending of many gangster films. See, I cannot read.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
For not only
our
does
thoughts were
Henry
correct.
Hill, the rat, survive, he also does so unrepentantly, regretting his loss of the gangster life. So it doesn't really focus on the crimes. Like, you show the beginning and the end of the crime, and you don't see the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on I mean, yeah,
Because
the
there's some
robberies.
we see some that way and some
Yeah.
that were just.
I mean, the murders though are
Yeah.
they're like
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
your face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know
which
what I'm
those
saying?
aren't necessarily the crimes. The crimes that...
Whoa,
Those aren't the
Amy doesn't
crimes-
think murder is
Those
a crime.
aren't the crimes that
No.
like they plan.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
like-
just the thing, but I mean, it's still
Those are things that just happen.
yeah that just
Yeah.
happen because of the ethos of the gangster lifestyle, which is like we take what we want, we do what we want.
Yeah.
And
Nobody tells
specifically,
them.
it's Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy, 'cause he's
it's
fucking
him
crazy.
unspooling throughout the course of the film. He starts out unchained and then gets worse.
Yeah, I know. He's. I remember watching it as a teenager and being like terrified. Like
Yeah.
this guy is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Joe Pesci is the fucking shit.
Yeah.
Because when I was watching that as a 16-year-old, I was like,
This
This
is Marv
guy-
from Home Alone.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy is like he plays him so well.
Or
that
Harry.
Harry
Harry
He's
from Home Alone.
a psychopath. Like
Yeah.
pure psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of, like, your first real inkling of that is the funny house scene, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
probably my second favorite
Had
scene
you seen
in
that
all of
scene?
cinema.
Had you known about it? Because that's a very famous scene. From the movie.
You know what? I had seen that scene, but I think I got it confused with the pen scene in Casino because I feel like he's also like stabbing the guy
Yeah.
with the pen,
Yeah.
demanding to know if he's funny or a joke or something like that. And so I think I
Yeah.
got those two scenes confused, but I had
Yeah.
seen that bit.
Yeah. Which, fun fact, this is one of my fun facts that I have. I have multiple. We won't go through all of them. That was actually something that happened to Joe Pesci when he worked at a restaurant in New York. He said that to a gangster, and that whole thing kind of transpired. So he told Scorsese that, and Scorsese didn't write it into the script.
Yeah.
But on the day of shooting, he told Pesci to just go for it. So you get Ray Liotta's actual reaction
Yeah.
to that scene.
Yeah, that
which I
real
think is
discomfort.
fantastic.
Yeah, it is really good.
And like I said, it's like my second favorite film scene of all time, like dialogue wise.
Yeah.
Like after dialogue wise after the USS Indianapolis scene in Jaws. But my first favorite scene is another scene in this film that we will get to later.
But you know, like Joe Pesci is, and I'm trying to think back on it now, and I think pretty much only murders we see happen are committed by him.
Yeah.
Certainly the majority of them.
Well, him and Jimmy.
Well, we don't.
Do we? But we
don't
just
see
know
him
Jimmy kills
actually
people. We don't see
kill
him-
people.
Yeah.
We see the aftermath, like the bodies that he does order. People.
Well,
murdered
yeah,
and
no,
shit.
but with what's his name? The guy I had it written down.
Jimmy
Bats.
helps kill the guy in the trunk.
Yeah. See, and there's
But
another.
I mean, he just shoots him. Yeah. So I guess you're right. But that's the only time.
There's
we see him
another excerpt in here where it's like you never see Henry kill anybody. He's
Right.
always on the outside of it.
Yeah.
And
Well, because he doesn't really kill people, right? That's why.
That's not
well,
the
they
kind
also the book also talks about how he like the scene when he's younger and he's working in the pizza place and he helps that guy even though his boss is like, don't bring him in here.
You wasted 7 aprons.
Yeah. He's like and then he says like, we gotta toughen this kid up, and you hear in the voiceover him saying like him kind of being like, oh well, he was probably right. Like
Yeah.
Well, he does say like getting shot was no big deal. It was like an everyday occurrence thing. So I mean, he's not like he himself is not like a killer. But he's definitely not. It's not something that like shocks him. I mean, I think towards the end where it starts like where Pesci starts going crazy.
when he kills Spider, I think that's like another big shock for
Yeah,
him.
Well, when he shoots him in the foot first, like he like that's already they're like, what the fuck, you know, and then he blows him away later.
Just like and you're just like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
I do love the response. What's the matter with you?
Yeah.
You know, like maybe he thrown some food at somebody.
Yeah, no,
you know?
just like being
like a
rude
toddler
or something. Like, what's the matter?
Well, so I have this note here. Let's see, where did I write? So it says here, I wrote, I don't usually like mafia movies because I don't like criminals, but these guys are okay. This is probably written around the middle of the film. And I said, I think that's because you don't really see them being terrible to others when they're being terrible to someone they have it coming. They're being terrible to like another criminal, somebody who needs to be taught a lesson or something like that. That I'm okay with. You know, I'm all right with criminal on criminal violence. And I think the fact that we're with Harry, he's our Henry, that he's our main dude, and he's still a criminal, but more of a robber. You know?
Well,
he's like a petty crime, like not petty, but like
because
that's what he was brought up on, doing more petty crimes because he could never be initiated into the mafia because he's half Irish.
Right, and so I feel like that's part of the reason why I was cool with this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's also like an interesting character, I guess.
Yeah.
I just think the character of Henry Hill is very interesting because at the end, like he gets kind of a fate worse than death.
Yeah.
Which is he has to live as a normal guy.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing throughout the entire movie that he's like,
He's been running from
the
whole
like,
time.
He's like, everyone else is suckers.
Yeah.
Like, this life is the shit.
Yeah.
And he gets it taken away from him.
Yeah, the book does bring up the fact that him and Karen, like the reason that they are so like enamored with and easily pulled into this life is because they come from such normal lives. Like especially Karen, because she's like an upper middle class Jewish girl and she's never like had this kind of life before. So when Henry gives her that gun, which is another like the slow motion scenes, that's
when he gives her the gun to
when he
hide.
gives her the gun and she like
after
the
he
slow motion,
after he beats that guy across the street.
Yeah.
He totally had it coming, by the way.
Yeah.
Like Scorsese used, this is like one thing that I always like remembered and taken away from this class is the way Scorsese uses slow motion, and I always like look for it, is it's always at a pivotal turning point in a character's life. And in this point, it's when Henry's coming towards Karen and he's handing her the gun, and it's kind of like this turning point. You get it with her voiceover as well, where she's like, "Oh, this is what my boyfriend does." And I find it so damn sexy, which is like most people would not find it like that alluring.
Sarah loves it when I beat people up with my gun.
Of course she does.
No, she doesn't. Wait a minute. You don't even have a gun.
I will say that scene, I liked it a lot. And it kind of reminded me, because I think, one of the things about watching this movie, maybe it wasn't necessarily life-changing for me, but what I can see in this movie is all of the other things that it inspired.
Yeah, because it's hugely influential.
Yeah. And so like that reminded me of, I don't know if you guys, either one of you have seen the first Samuel L. Jackson Shaft film.
Nope, I've not seen a single Shaft film.
It's not.
I
it's
remember
fine.
it coming
It's
out,
Shaft,
but yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson's in this.
Yes, I know. I wrote that. I said it's a baby, but probably like 40-year-old Samuel L. Jackson.
But anyways, continue with
I did notice that. I wrote, "Hey, Sam Jackson." I did watch the credits all the way to the end to see if that he'd appear and ask about putting a team together. He didn't show up.
Did not.
Anyway,
he didn't have his eye patch.
But there's a scene where see, that's why, because the bullet actually took out his eye. And he survived that shot. That's why.
Yeah, that's what all the blood on the sheets were.
Hey man, you bleed from the head a lot. Anyway, but there's a scene in Shaft where there's like a lady whose son, like he wants information from this lady, and she mentions that her son is like getting being recruited by these gangsters or something in the neighborhood. Yeah. And so and in order to get her help, he says, "Okay, which are the guys?" And she goes, "Those guys there," and she points across the street. And he marches off across the street, and he turns one of the guys around and flat out just cracks him across the face with his gun. And he says something like, "What's my name?" He's like, "What?" And he smacks him again. He goes, "What's my name?" "What?" Smacks him again. He goes, "My name's John Shaft." "What? What's my name?" He's like, "John Shaft." And he goes, and it's like one of those things where it's he wants him to know exactly who's doing this to him. Yeah. And he says, "Now you see this kid, you're never gonna touch him again. And if you touch him again, I'm gonna." And it's this great scene. And then like the guys that are with him are like, "Shit," And it's such a good bit. And that's what that scene reminded me of.
That's also I feel like a kind of a little bit of a combination of the scene where they kidnap the mailman and take him and threaten him with putting his head in the pizza oven.
I felt bad for that mailman. Why not just like go rough up his parents a little? Like,
like the first time I watched this, I thought
what if that guy's on vacation and then like the next, like the replacement mailman gives them their mail?
Didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
The first time I watched this, I did think that they were like looking for his dad, and they were gonna like.
I thought so too, and I was like, his dad's a postman.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought he was at a factory or something, and then it's like, so that felt the long way around to really like threaten somebody.
I did want to question you, Joe, on if you, as an editor and a filmmaker yourself, if you noticed the structure of this film.
I did. The
parallels, the mirroring of the two, of the front end and the back end of the film.
I didn't notice that as much, but what I liked about the structure of it something that surprised me structurally about the film was we meet Henry. And
it's not Harry Potter.
I know. We meet Henry, and he's. I feel like Henry Hill just doesn't sound like an Irish name. I guess it does.
Well, he's half Irish.
He's half Irish.
It's just a weird name. Like it doesn't. That's not a criticism. It's just like it doesn't feel like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway.
I mean, that's his real name.
You're right. But anyway, so we're with him. We're hearing his voiceover. And then when it switches up and it's Karen's voiceover, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because I was like, Joe's going to have some thoughts about this.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because it was surprising. Usually you don't get a movie from two points of view. And then at that point I was like, oh, I wonder if there's going to be an explanation for this. Yeah. And I wondered if there's going to be more, if we're going to hear from more people. But I figured like at this point, they must be telling somebody their story. I didn't know. I, to be honest, because it starts out with them, their courtship, and it kind of reminded me of When Harry Met Sally. Where they're talking about the first time I met him, I couldn't stand him. Know, and so that's actually what it reminded me of more than anything else is When Harry Met Sally.
Interesting.
When Henry met Karen.
There you go.
Yeah.
I did also notice that she's, I believe, the therapist in The Sopranos. I believe she's Tony Soprano's therapist.
I've not seen it. I just know that from IMDb.
Right.
She was also the two little girls, or not the two little girls, but the youngest daughter that Henry and Karen have is actually her daughter with Harvey Keitel.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. But then as far as the structure goes, I mean, I noticed that there was kind of like epicycles within the film, that this film could have been like Goodfellas, the rise and fall of Henry Hill, because it's like we see him on this upswing and then something happens and he's brought low, and then you see him like build it up again and something happens and he's brought low, and it happens like 3 times throughout the course of the film, which I thought was interesting, that you could take the film and divide it up almost evenly in terms of where he is in his career and his success.
Yeah.
And each time it's something different. You know, first it's like a heist, and then after that it's drugs. You know, and I thought that was really interesting. And I mean, you sort of get the sense of like what a smart self-starter he is.
Yeah.
You know, because he's always just like, well, okay, now I'm going to try something else.
Yeah.
Did you get documentary vibes from it? Like a quasi, like, stage documentary type thing?
It's a little too formalistic for me to have felt it to be very documentary style. There were scenes that felt it, but like the freeze frames, and then he would talk and stuff like that. That's stuff that you know, made me feel more like it
like
was
this is a film. This is like
but like I don't know if that if Tommy's mom was Scorsese's mom.
Yes,
or
that is correct. And also the cook in the jail, the one who like made the gravy and stuff, that's his father.
So there are people in the movie like that, other actors and people that felt their involvement in it felt almost documentary-ish.
Yeah,
because
like
they weren't
the
bad
scene,
actors, but they felt just super real.
Yeah, the scene where she's making them food after they
and showed them the painting.
Yeah, that whole scene is improv. Scorsese did not tell. Yeah, a lot of it is improv, but Scorsese did not tell her that they had just killed a guy. So, like, the deer hoof scene and Pesci asking for the knife.
The paw, you know, whatever. Is it called? Hoof?
Yeah. So it's like she was he's like, just cook, just make them breakfast.
Yeah.
And the way De Niro rubs the ketchup bottle is the way the actual, like, Jimmy Duke, I think is his last name, actually poured his ketchup out.
I saw when he was doing that, I was like, well, he's going to get too much ketchup out. That's going to be way too much ketchup. You know?
But, like, I think when I was reading my fun facts and the trivia and stuff on IMDb, De Niro was like so into getting into character for Jimmy. He would like talk to Henry Hill constantly.
De Niro is.
I thought they talked to the author of the book, not Henry Hill himself.
Nope, they talked to Paul Edgy, but they also had access to Henry Hill. Ray Liotta was not allowed to speak to or see Henry Hill until after the film was complete.
That's interesting. Yeah. I know that De Niro is a very dedicated method actor. Like for Untouchables, where he plays Al Capone, he demanded to like be flown to Italy, and he spent like 3 months there or something eating everything to gain a lot of weight. And he read that Capone wore silk underwear, so then he demanded silk underwear. You know, things like that. Like he's very much so dedicated to that part of the craft. So that makes sense.
I mean, he's an amazing actor. Yes. I love him so much. But there was something else I was going to ask you, but I forget.
I will say, so there's that bit when there's like the voiceover, and it's like, you know, this is Jimmy 2 times because he says everything twice, and like all that,
get the papers.
Yeah, but there's one character they call Frankie the Wop, which is I thought it was funny for one main reason is Sarah's dad, Jewish by the way, had a friend called Stu the Jew. But he had another friend that was also called Stu, who was also Jewish. And I asked him one time, I was like, why is it that the one guy gets to be Stu the Jew and the other guy's what? Chopped liver? You know? And so I thought it was similarly. It's like Frankie the Wop's like, aren't they all?
Like, well, it's like how they name all of their sons Peter or Paul and all their daughters Maria.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember what I was going to ask, and it had to do with like the documentary thing. The reason he did that is because he wanted to make it feel a lot more like you were actually watching like the real life, like a real life study of what these people were like, because he pulled a lot of the way these people acted from his own experiences, and that's what happens in Mean Streets and Who's That Knocking and Casino as well. I don't think so much as Casino, because it's slightly different. It's Vegas gangsters versus New York gangsters. But he pulled a lot, like, and that's why he wanted the documentary feel, is to make it feel a lot more like an anthropological study.
I mean, it definitely felt.
I mean, I didn't feel like it was a documentary. I didn't get the documentary.
But he was using the voiceovers and the like location title cards and lower thirds and stuff. As a way to make it have the more documentary feel.
It definitely didn't feel like
the spirit of a documentary.
Disingenuous or anything.
Yeah, no. You know? I mean, it did feel like, I guess you're right in that it felt genuine to what this life was and this world was. I do love how they have not really introductions, but there's a lot of characters. Like there's so many names in this movie, you know, and they're all like really interesting. And they're like, oh yeah, this is like a big like family, you know. Like Karen in her like voiceover, like when she's like first starting to get into the life, she's like, we did everything together. This was like everybody there was like
this weird sort of isolation where everything within that group becomes normal.
Yeah, there's Lorraine Bracco, I can never pronounce her, Bracco. She tried to understand and learn what a mob wife was like, but she was never able to become friends with them because they were so isolated.
Right,
like they kept pushing her out. Yeah,
that makes sense. And it's funny because I think this movie does a really good job of painting the portrait for why people get into any sort of gang. You know, you're looking for power. You're looking for respect, and acceptance, and
like the bit,
safety.
Yeah, the bit young Henry Hill, like when he first gets pinched, and then like he gets out of the courtroom,
and they're like, "Hey!"
And everyone's like, "Hey!" Like that big celebratory moment. And he's like, "Oh, I thought you'd be mad." And like, no, like everyone gets pinched. You know. And it's like this big and you're just like, that's why people get into this gangs. Exactly that moment right there. That's exactly.
Yeah, it's like I was talking about earlier with like him being normal, but it's also like because he was part of such a large family. He never felt like and his dad like abused him and all of that stuff. He just never felt like a family, a kinship with them. And then when he like became a part of this life, he felt more of that like familial relationship with them.
Yeah, that they were there for him. Yeah, the way his real family really wasn't.
Yeah, although he did take care of his younger brother like later on. Which did you notice who his younger brother was?
I forget that actor's name, but I did.
Whose younger brother?
Michael, Henry Hill's younger brother.
You know what? He looked familiar, but I didn't.
Yeah, he's
from
he's from a lot of movies.
Yeah,
but he's what I always remember him from is Pineapple Express, just because I always say Kevin Corrigan. That's his name. I always forget his name. Great actor. But anyways, he's in
True Romance.
Yes, he's in Pineapple Express. But the reason he isn't Departed. The reason why I bring him up.
Oh yeah, him.
The reason why I bring him up is because I always send you guys the Craig Robinson I Seen It gif. It's from Pineapple Express, and he's talking to Kevin Corrigan because Kevin Corrigan, he's like this gangster type, but then he's like gotten soft and he just wants to go home to his wife. The reason why he says I seen it, he's like, I saw you kill a man with like nothing but like a shoestring or something. Like I seen it. And he's like, now you saw something. So it's always, whenever I think of him, I always think of that scene. But I mean, he is
character actor
in this movie, and it is funny because I'm just like, oh, that's that guy.
You seen him.
I seen him.
So you know what was funny about this movie, because you mentioned something about the soundtrack sort of underscoring ironically something
in my accidental
reading. So there's during the Jimmy's killing spree montage, they use the piano suite from Layla, which is usually the half of the song that nobody ever really listens to. I mean, it's the whole song is very good. I love Eric Clapton, but everybody knows that. The piano suite, which is the other half of the song that feels like a completely different song, is usually the half that people forget about. And I thought it was interesting that the movie used that bit of the song in it. I have a fun
fact about that.
Oh, go ahead.
During the famous Layla montage, Scorsese plays the piano coda section of the song during the shooting of each scene, so that certain bars of the piano piece would match up with certain shots. So he actually played it while they were filming, so that when they went to editing. And I think there is another fun fact on here. It's like he had 43 songs, which is the equivalent of about 4 albums, and he had thought about all of the songs and where they would appear before he had even started filming, at least 3 years before he shot the film, according to the music editor Christopher Brooks.
Interesting. So that's like Edgar Wright and Baby Driver, same thing. Like he wrote that script with those songs in mind. James Gunn with Guardians of the Galaxy, like really careful song selection.
I love a good director who knows his pre-production.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Indeed. Question for you. Yes. How did you like
I thought Maury's wig thing was hilarious. Especially when it comes off immediately.
Yeah. That is pretty good. This movie, we talked about the anti-heroes that you don't like, but you kind of like these guys. Mm-hmm. What about, like, the family aspect? Like, the stuff with Karen and, like, his, because I really like, I never really thought about it much when I first saw it as a kid. Yeah. But rewatching it, I really like Karen's character.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Like
I love her.
Her arc is like so interesting to me, and she's just interesting as a character. I was like, I'd never really noticed it before in previous watchings, but I did like
because she felt like a victim without being victimized. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Because she was like a part of it. She knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And she was, like you said, she was attracted to it. Like it turned her on. Mm-hmm. But also she was, a victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she does end up getting like pulled into like the drug lifestyle like later on.
And like she's also using too.
I mean, they're both like, and I like that. Speaking of the editing, I like that scene. That
helicopter scene.
Because it's all
that
like
whole sequence is my favorite.
Yeah.
It's my favorite cinematic scene in ever.
It's
like,
really,
I absolutely love that whole sequence.
Well put, because it's like you can see them spinning out.
Like totally. From the time the May 10th title card shows up until they get arrested, that entire, I think it's like 15 to 20 minutes is like my favorite thing in all of cinema. I'm just like, it's so perfect. It really captures his erraticism, his paranoia,
and you feel it. Like I felt, I'm just watching and I'm like, oh, I'm all tense.
Because he keeps like repeating himself and saying stuff, but it's different every time, but it feels like the same thing, and he's like looking at the thing.
Even his narration, if you listen, his narration gets faster and faster as he is getting more anxious telling that story.
Yeah. No, I thought that was really cool and really well done. It's hard to get a sense of a character being out of control. I feel like sometimes, and that scene really nailed it.
Yeah, and I think Ray Liotta did a really great job, and he had never done drugs before filming that scene, so it was like.
And then he was on drugs for that whole scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, but I did like Karen. It's funny is I kept thinking, like I think the family stuff I didn't mind because it was a bunch of different settings. Like it was her with all the wives, and then like the families together sometimes, and then and there was more going on than just showing us they have a family. Like there's a joke I have here where one of the women is talking to, I think she's talking to Karen. She says, he's so jealous, if anyone looks at me he'll kill him. And they're like, oh great. Like there's stuff like that. And so I feel like it was more these snippets rather than the whole movie being about just their families. Like and so that worked for me, although I kept thinking like two things throughout the whole movie. It was like, dude, if you're going to have a girlfriend and be married, that's fine, but don't have the same girlfriend. Like, switch out the girlfriends every couple months. Like, this is not a good idea. And I also kept thinking, at some point, he really ought to put his money in a savings account. And then he would have avoided all of this shit.
Yeah, but they didn't think like that.
I know. The books, all right?
I know. But I just kept thinking, like, those things, I will say, I did think that those white folk used the N-word a little too much.
I think they used it just enough for it being set in the 70s, well 50s, 70s,
and 80s. 50s to 80s, yeah.
And
because it was a common word at the time,
especially Italian.
It's a common word now, unfortunately.
Gangsters. I mean,
I did notice there were some other Sopranos folks. I think that the fellow with the white hair on the sides, that sort of skunk haired dude from The Sopranos, I noticed in the background of one scene.
I've never watched The Sopranos.
I think it was him.
Yeah.
When I was like flipping through some of the actors on IMDb, like if you would look at their known for, they would have The Sopranos on there.
Right. Yeah. And then I did notice, I don't know if that scene where where Jimmy's like, no, go down there, check out there's some
that scene always super freaks
creepy.
Me out.
It's super creepy because I don't know what the fuck. I don't know if he was sending her down there to get killed or brutalized or what. I mean, but it was or if there genuinely were like coats. I have no idea, or dresses.
Well, it's also like because when. Like, it's told from her point of view a little bit, and she's probably on coke or something at that point.
Right, she's an unreliable witness. I mean, she and Henry both are.
Yeah. And but I mean, in that, I think it's a little bit more clear that
like her paranoia.
That that's dangerous. Like, he's gonna kill her.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I like the bit, it's subtle, but the bit where he's like, oh, you should take some coats or whatever. He's like, okay, I'll take a look for my mom or whatever.
Yeah.
And she begins to go up the stairs. Like, that's where normally she would go whenever Jimmy was gonna give her stuff, right? Like stolen stuff. And she's like, no, it's not this way. It's this way.
Yeah.
And he's being real creepy and shady the whole time.
And he keeps like, just sort of.
And he's like, no, you just right there. Just keep going.
Yeah. Well, and even when the police, I'm sorry to cut you off.
But in that scene when she looks into the thing, and it's just, and you don't see the guys' faces. It's just like a dark backlit. It's super shady, and you're just like, yep. That's a murder. That's where someone gets murdered.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like mirrored when with Henry's voiceover when the cops come. He's like, "Oh, I knew it was cops because
only cops talk like that.
Only cops talk like that. If it was somebody from the family, I would have been dead. They wouldn't have said anything."
Yeah, I wouldn't even know they were there. Man.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's not saying anything, but she's gonna die.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in the way when he says it too, it's like. You think they send strangers after you. No, it's your friends that come to you with smiles.
They come to you with smiles.
Yeah, because like when when Joe Pesci's gonna like
Tommy,
that was I don't know why I was like whatever.
Yeah. When they trick him
to make him.
Yeah, when they're gonna make him, and he like opens the door, and it's just like this empty room, and then it's like bam in his face.
Yeah. Well, he's just like. I think he kind of realizes in that moment too.
He says like, "Oh no," or something.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh
that.
shit!" And
then, which is funny because I think I'd seen that scene before, but once again thought it was maybe Casino. Unless he also gets shot in the back of the head in Casino, I have no idea.
I don't remember it.
But yeah, so I was like, "Oh, that was this movie."
But one of the guys that kills him, Marty's dad. Huh. If in the overhead scene, the guy on the right with the kind of the belly and the cane, that's Marty's dad.
Oh, so this is the guy. That is in The Sopranos.
Yes.
Amy, if you can see, but he was in Goodfellas. So
he's in the background.
Yeah, he's in the background. But I noticed him. But he doesn't have this hair, but he still looks distinctive. But anyway, I was going to say when Karen's walking away in that scene, and she gets in the car and drives away really quickly, one of the fake license plates falls off. It's just like a piece of paper that looks like a New York plate, and it just like flops right off.
Well, I guess that's filmmaking in the 90s, 80s for you, I guess.
Well, I mean, I know that in the first Godfather, there's that bit where James Caan like runs across the street and like leaps up over a railing and starts like punching some guy in the face, and the shot is like profile, and you can see him missing him by like a foot. You know?
You can. Yeah,
and like that's one of the things about I think Godfather that sort of turned me away from it too was it felt like, I don't want to say it's like they didn't know how to make movies yet, but I felt like Coppola was just like, fuck it. You know, like there's just a lot of like weird mistakes in that movie that sort of is like, if you're not going to take this movie, making this movie seriously, Mr. Coppola, then I'm not going to watch it.
Well, it's also the 70s, Joe. They were freewheeling.
They were on
freewheeling
drugs.
Coke. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's so funny too. Like old movies, not Casino, but like movies from the 70s. They really didn't know what color blood was. Like it's super orange.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know.
All over the place.
But yeah.
I did want to ask you if there were any like we've talked about a lot of scenes in this, but if there were like two of my favorite scenes in all of cinema are from this film. But I want to know if there were any scenes that particularly stood out to you. Both of you, actually.
Well, obviously the scenes that I had seen before, but wasn't sure if they were in this movie. But the push pull that I told you about in the diner when Henry's realizing, oh shit, she's gonna have me killed.
Yeah.
The tracking shot going into the Copacabana club, which is great. I think like the sort of from below shot of them like just shit kicking somebody feels like a thing that's in a lot of other movies that came out of this, and the opening the trunk sort of shot that's in a lot of crime films. I think there's a much more sure-handed blend of comedy with the atrocities in this film than something like Departed, which really does genuinely bother me because The Departed is super clunky.
Because one of your criticisms of Scorsese is that the tone, right?
Yeah.
You're like, he's tonally all over the place.
Yeah.
And in this movie, I mean,
it's a lot more natural. I think it works a lot better. Because there's that bit when like the opening when they kill the made man in the trunk and everything, and I cannot remember now what he says, but it's just like, oh shit, and then like they, you know, and it's like, that's a funny opening.
Yeah.
It's like
It's like, oh shit, he's still alive.
Yeah. You know, like even when they're driving,
When the driver's like, what's that?
Did I hit something? Is that a tire?
Yeah, we gotta stop and check.
Yeah, and it's like that was so like I thought that was funny and it was good and it was like dark humor in a way that made sense versus because I don't think we were meant to be surprised but maybe not appalled by the murder versus like a scene in The Departed when you know we like Martin Sheen's character, we're with him, and then like Leonardo DiCaprio like rounds the corner and you just see him like fall into frame and then like splatter and it's like that's meant to be fun. I mean that is funny, but it shouldn't be, you know. And that so this scene felt like it was meant to be funny and it was.
Gotcha.
You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
What about you, Johnny? Are there any scenes that really always stood out to you or that more stood out to you this time?
I've always loved the shot of Karen with the gun.
Oh yeah,
in his face
as he wakes up.
Sarah wakes me up with a gun in my face all the time.
I mean, no better way to wake up.
That's how relationships work, Joe.
Yeah.
But I've
Especially when she
always
finds
loved
out
that
about
shot.
my
I think that
girlfriends.
shot is so good.
It was
I
really
love
good.
it so much.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, I've seen it before, but I still love the tracking with the Copacabana. Like it's such that scene kind of is just encompasses this movie so well, you know, because it's like you see like the lifestyle. You get that scene does a really good job of seducing you into that lifestyle the way that Henry is seducing Karen into that lifestyle.
Which fun fact, Joe, and this is something that we talked about earlier, like between the two of us. That was something that happened day of. They weren't allowed to go into the front entrance, so Scorsese decided or they were only allowed to use the back entrance. So that was like split second decision where Scorsese was like, "Oh, we're going to use the back entrance and use this to illustrate how she is seduced into this lifestyle."
Well, and I also thought it was cool because it's him basically doing his impersonation of Jimmy.
Yeah.
Because he always
he
idolized
him.
him.
He looked up to him. Yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's also like showing how Henry always gets into like the back of things. Like when they do the Air France thing, he's like getting in through the back room.
Oh yeah.
You always have to make everything so sexual, Joe.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed this or caught this or if it even popped up in your brain, but this movie obviously had a lot of influence around other things. But did you catch that it's pretty much it's this movie is like they pay homage to it in a Community episode, the one where the chicken fingers and they like run the scheme op-ed and he's like doing the voiceover and it's like has all the pans and everything.
Oh, you know what? I don't know. That didn't.
Yeah, it's like entirely. Yeah. You remember what episode I'm talking about, right? Where Where they op-ed gets a job at lunch because the chicken fingers are really good, and they become like they bribe everyone with chicken fingers.
That. Yeah.
It's like all like a. I mean, we talked about Community and they're like genre episodes, and that's just like a and it's I think one of the first lines of the voiceover, like it's like I've always wanted to be like a part, like a person with the chicken fingers or something like that. It's like a total homage to this movie.
Oh,
which also reminds me, Johnny, I know you didn't end up watching it, but Hustlers. 100%.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that movie had strong Scorsese.
According to the writer-director, she pulled almost all of her inspiration from Goodfellas for Hustlers.
I could see that because I liked Hustlers. It was quite good. You should see it.
I mean,
it's an amazing film. I love it.
I still haven't seen it. Chapter 2. So.
Yeah, it's my most surprising film of the year so far.
Yeah, huh.
But yeah, there is so much of Goodfellas and Hustlers. Just female.
I kept thinking all throughout Hustlers, like, they just gotta save their money. Just save your money.
Well, Joe, that's exactly what you thought during Goodfellas.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Which is good advice. Save your money, guys.
Everybody open a bank account. Get a savings account.
Start socking money away. Yeah.
I do have a couple recastings, but I do have one fun fact that I really, really want to talk about. Right. I think it's kind of a funny fun fact.
Spill
it.
The MPAA ordered only 10 frames of blood to be removed before they could give it the R rating.
Oh yeah, I did read about that.
10 frames.
That's so weird. But the MPAA is really weird.
Well, you know that is I've seen that before in other films where like somebody gets shot in the head. They're like, fine, but you just have to cut off the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, all right. You know what's funny actually about that tracking shot? Because that was all on a Steadicam, and the Steadicam was invented in like the mid '70s, I think. But I feel like this movie, other movies have done it too, but this movie really made use of what the Steadicam can do, you know, in a tracking shot like that, which I don't know if that was the first time it had been done with it, because there's also a really great long tracking shot on I think, but I don't know if it's on a Steadicam in Untouchables, when they're going through the police station.
I have not seen Untouchables.
Oh, it's a good movie.
I know, it's on my list.
Well, anyway.
I do have a couple recastings for Jimmy, Henry, and one for Karen.
Okay.
So for Karen, Ellen Barkin was considered for the role. Yeah, I don't know who she is.
Sounds like a dog actress. I know. You know.
Alec Baldwin auditioned for the role, and Sean Penn was considered for Henry Hill.
Weird.
Yeah. John Malkovich was considered for Jimmy.
Even weirder.
Very.
Scorsese courted William Peterson.
No, that I can't see.
And Robert Jr. was offered either the role of Jimmy or Tommy, but he, of course, chose Jimmy. And then finally, Al Pacino was offered the role of Jimmy, but turned it down because he didn't want to be stereotyped.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that is recasting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, so Joe, Scorsese, you got a new take, or do you just
Are you going to watch any more Scorsese?
Yeah.
Do you
Would
want
you watch
to borrow
Taxi Driver?
I don't have Taxi Driver, but I have Mean Streets.
I would watch other Scorsese films, but I don't know that I'd like binge all of his stuff. It's not.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're all very long.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of like this.
Yeah, because ultimately they're not uplifting movies.
They're not. No, they're pretty heavy tales.
Yeah.
I think Hugo's his only uplifting tale.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah, because Age of Innocence is a little bit of a downer as well.
Yeah. But you say you didn't like that one.
No, I don't like it. A lot of people love it. They say it's like one
I
of
don't
his...
think I've ever seen that one.
Are they saying that they like the movie or the Don Henley song?
The movie, because it's usually when we're talking about the comics of a movie. I've never heard of that song.
It's a good song. You've probably heard it.
I mean, probably. I don't know. But...
My boo stance.
Anyways... I'm glad, Joe, that you enjoyed this.
I did.
And
I did enjoy
Change your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that we can finally get blown off your back about one movie.
We've lifted the shame from you. You are no longer.
We need to have a ceremony now at the end of every Secret Shame episode where it's like
christening.
the shame has been lifted.
Oh my God, not a christening.
Which is something else that we could talk about, but that's a whole other tangent we can go on, is the religion aspect in Scorsese's films versus this one, which has almost zero religious
Just a
connotation.
little bit, just like, oh wait, they can't know
Cover
that
up
you're
that
not
crap.
Jewish.
Well, it's like they
He's like, I hear you're half Jewish. He's like, oh, only the good part.
Yeah.
Only the good half.
Yeah.
like they literally hide the Christianity that is so prevalent in most of Scorsese's early work. But anyways, thank you guys for listening, and thank you, Joe.
Extra long episode for an extra long
I knew this
movie.
was going to be a long episode, but
There's a lot to unpack here.
I love this movie so much.
It is. We were watching it again. I was like, God damn, I love this movie.
It's
one of those. I was like, yeah, I really like this movie.
But Joe, I'm really glad that you.
I'm glad you liked it too.
I'm so glad that we could talk about this with you and finally get you to stop bad mouthing Scorsese.
How dare you besmirch the name of Marty Scorsese?
Still gonna be critical on these other films.
I think you're just jealous because Sarah loves him so much.
Yeah.
But she said it was like an uncle. It's fine.
Okay, well, guys, let us know your thoughts on Martin Scorsese on Twitter or Instagram.
Both points of view are welcome.
At Nostalgitis, Nostalgitis, or you can email us at thenostalgiaeffectpod@gmail.com.
I don't know how she spells that every time.
She's good. She's good.
Hey, I got it down. I don't know how I can spell it either. I can barely read. But thank you guys so much, and don't forget to be kind and rewind.
And forget about it.
Forget about it. Gabagoo. All right.
Racist.